Welcome back to Sunday Club. This is our second video in our Abraham series. If you're new or need a reminder on what we did last time, you can catch up on last week's video in the description box below. But if you're ready and you can remember what happened, then let's kick off today with our big reminder. Last week, we were introduced to a man who had to go on a really long trip, and we were packing our bag just like he was. He had to go from Ur up to Haran and then down to a land called Canaan. Can you remember the name of this man? Well, this man called Abraham had to leave lots of things behind because he was being called by God. Abraham left his country, he left Ur, and he left people and family behind because he trusted that God had something good for him in store. I wonder if you can remember the 3 things that God promised Abraham. Maybe you can pause the video and see if you can try and remember them out loud. Well, we had 3 pictures to help us remember the things that Abraham was promised. First, there was land, then there was descendants, and then there was blessing. God was promising Abraham that he would have lots of land and lots of people, so children and grandchildren, more grandchildren, and that Abraham would know God's favour and kindness to him. Well, that was our big reminder from last week's lesson. But what's the big idea for this week? Let's find out. In today's big idea, I've got a big box and I have a small box. Which box would you choose to open? And what would make you choose? This one looks very nicely wrapped. It is very big. This one is, it's kind of small. It's not very nicely wrapped. And even this one, it's got something inside it. I can hear it. Which one would you choose to open? Let's open the big box. It sounds like it's got something good inside and it's really nicely wrapped. I'm excited. Okay. Whoa. I wonder what's inside. Not such a good present. It is full of pine cones. That's all that's in here. Pine cones. Not a very good present indeed. I wonder what was inside the small box. I wonder if you would pick the small box at all. Well, it's got chocolate and it's got sweets inside. Maybe what looks good on the outside, maybe in the end isn't the best decision after all. In today's Bible story, we will find out how Abraham and his nephew Lot had to make a choice about where they were going to live. Today's big Bible story is found in Genesis chapter 13, verses 1 to 18. And in the book of Genesis, we read that Abraham and his nephew Lot were very, very rich indeed. They lived up here in this nice little green area of the land. So there was some nice grassy areas for their sheep to eat from, and the water was good and everything was healthy there. But to be rich in those days meant that you had lots and lots of sheep and herdsmen, so people who worked to make sure that the sheep were well looked after. But the thing is, Abraham and Lot had so many sheep that they ran out of all the space to keep them in. And so Abraham and Lot know that there's not enough space, not enough food, and not enough water for everybody. Can you see how there is a problem here? There are too many animals and not enough land. I wonder how you would try and fix this problem. Maybe you could pause the video and try and figure it out. Let's read Genesis 13, verses 8 to 11 to find out what happened. Then Abraham said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen. Is not the whole land before you? Separate yourself from me. If you take the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you take the right hand, then I will go to the left." And Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt in the direction of Zoar. This is before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east. Thus they separated from each other. Abraham doesn't want there to be any arguments between himself and Lot and their men, because they're related. That's what kinsman means. He tells Lot to choose a piece of land that he wants, and when Lot looks at the lands, he sees that one is full of bright green grass and full of space and has lots of water. And so he decides to go to there. It reminds him of the Garden of Eden, so he thinks it looks good. So Abraham and Lot, they separate. Lot goes down here and Abraham travels this way. It looks like Lot has the best and most blessed piece of land. Remember God's promises to Abraham from last week? That there would be land, that he would have descendants, and that there would be blessing. It doesn't sound like Abraham would be getting the blessed bit of land now, does it? Maybe God has forgotten about his promises to Abraham. Do you think that could ever happen? Well, in verse 14 to 18, we'll find out the answer. The Lord said to Abraham, after Lot had separated from him, "Lift your eyes and look from the place where you are, northwards and southwards and eastwards and westwards. For all the land that you see I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring can also be counted. Arise, walk through the length and the breadth of this land, for I will give it to you." So Abraham moved his tent and came and settled by the oaks of Mamre, which are at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Of course, God had not forgotten his promises to Abraham. How could he? God never forgets his promises. He is always faithful to his word. Remember our boxes from the beginning of today's video? It turned out that the best looking option wasn't actually the best choice in the end. Like Abraham trusted in God to keep his promises, we know that we can trust God too. We trust God because it is the best thing to do. He knows how everything will work out, and he is powerful to do what he promises. If you're 3 to 6, try and answer some of these questions. And if you're 7 to 11, you can try to answer these. Well, that's all we have for today's video. Well done for listening in, and I will see you next time. Bye!